Today we're doing some pretty important stuff with regards to, some pretty important stuff regards to trigonometry. These questions here are weird. Do not do them. Basically, it's like not a triangle, right? 0 degrees means there's no angle. So let's not do that. All right, just scratch that off, 7, 8, 9. But right here is super important, so we're going to start right here. All right. So there's a little saying called so katoa. We're going to explain what that means. So stands for SOH. It's a mnemonic. So write that down, SOH. So katoa. If you say it to your parents, they'll probably cringe because they'll probably know what it means, or at least know that it's really hard to remember. But it's not. So katoa. So the S stands for sine theta. So the S in so stands for sine theta. The O stands for opposite side. And the H stands for hypotenuse. It's the order of the sine ratio. The sine ratio is sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Write that down. Write that down. Write that down. Write that down. Ka stands for cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And it's important to know there must be a letter or a number in between the ratio word and the equal sign. And you better darn well have an equal sign. Okay. So sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And the last one, TOA, stands for the tan ratio. The tan ratio is tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. TOA, tan opposite over adjacent. Write this down, write this down, write this down. Why am I having phone calls on this? It's ridiculous. Okay, tan theta opposite over adjacent. This is how you should start every question, Nicholas, by writing this down. Okay. So let's have a look at a question. Example number 1. The first thing you do, number 1, is label your HOA. And number 2, then you choose your ratio. So go ahead, do number 1, GOA. Label your HOA. On this triangle, label your hypotenuse, your opposite side, your adjacent side. Do it. Don't just stare at it. Do it. Do it. You did? Which one's H? Which one's 9? Wrong. Opposite. Last one? A. Good. So eyes up here. You know something about O. You know this dimension is 9. You want to find X, so you care about H. Which side do you not care about? A. Who cares? We don't know its dimension, and we don't want to find it. So we ignore it. What we have is O and H. So you look up at SOHCAHTOA. Which ratio has O and H in it? Is it the tangent? No. Is it the cosine? No. Cosine's A and H. The only one with O and H is the sine ratio. Okay. So then we start by writing down sine theta. Sine theta equals O over H. And that's from the SO in SOHCAHTOA. Then we're going to substitute in sine blank equals a fraction. So we have to substitute the theta. What value is theta? Look at your triangle. What's the value of theta? 35 degrees. It's right here in the corner. So that has to go right there. Okay. Then the fraction. O's on top. So what number goes on top? 9. What goes on the bottom? X. Okay. Now this is the hardest example. I don't know why they started with this one. When the unknown is on the bottom, okay, X is in the bottom of the fraction. It's cold, it's dark, X is scared, has to get out. So this is kind of like those fractions that we dealt with way back in very first unit. When we had 3 over 5 equals 8 over X. The first thing we did was get X out of the basement, so X went on the top. And since we flipped the right fraction, what do we have to do with the left fraction? Yeah, it's this flipping stuff. Okay, we had to flip it as well. So what is sine 35 as a fraction then? Sine 35 over 1. Okay. So then we go and we flip both sides. The right side is easy, becomes x over 9. The left side becomes 1 over sine 35 degrees. Okay. Now the last class didn't like that. They chose to change sine 35 degrees into the decimal. So for their work, instead of dividing by 9 on the right side, they brought it up and times by 9. And so they got 1 times 9 divided by, and they didn't want to write sine 35 degrees. They wanted to go to the decimal. So they went to the calculator. Go to your calculator. Figure out the value for sine 35. Go and do it. What's sine 35 degrees? Benson? It's not a spectator sport, man. Sine 35 is 0.5735. 5735. Okay. Good. So then you go to your calculator, which are already there, and you go 1 times 9 divided by 0.5735 equals 15.69. So we write that down, 15.69, and then you should round it to 1 decimal, 15.7. Sides should always be 1 decimal. And we're going to do finding sides today. Any questions? Okay. You guys okay? You sure no questions? All right, let's do the next one. So, so this one, is there one more before it? Remember? Yes, this one. Wait, so sometimes you get a picture of a building, all right? And in the question it says the ladder is 8.5 meters long. So that's one thing it tells you. It says it makes an angle of 72 degrees to the ground. That's the second thing. And this last thing, the third thing is, how far will the ladder reach up the building? Always going to tell you 3 things, right? 3 pieces of information. Okay? 2 of them you'll be a number, 1 you have to find. So, drawing on our diagram then, the ladder is 8.5 meters long. That tells us it's in this location. 72 degrees is down below, and we want to know this distance. How far up the building does the ladder reach? So that's x. Okay. In a simplified triangle, there you have it. Now you label your HOA, and you're trying to find the opposite side. You know H. Which ratio should we use? Which one has O and H in it? So, S-O-H, so. Then you start by writing sine theta equals O over H. That's the first step. Okay. Then you go and substitute in sine blank equals blank over blank. What goes in the theta spot? 72 degrees. Okay. Equals what? X over 8.5. So this is the easier one because this is when your unknown is on top. This is the easier question. Okay. So instead of dividing by 8.5, you bring it up and multiply. So we get sine 72 degrees times 8.5 equals x. Now, I know how to do that on my calculator, but you guys sometimes get scared. So if you want, you can take 72 degrees, find the sine of that, and write that down instead. 0.9510 times 8.5. So you can go to your calculator and then tell me what x is. Now, if you have all these decimals on your calculator, you don't need to erase them. You can just go times 8.5 equals 8.08. And rounding to one decimal, it becomes 8.1. Any questions? This is pretty much all we're doing now for the next week. There's only 2 questions I can really ask you. The third one we kind of started yesterday, and we'll finish tomorrow, but there's not a lot of other questions I can ask. Okay. Let's practice, though, with different ratios. So next page, cosine ratio. First step is to label your HOA. GOA, label your HOA. HOA, label your HOA. Alex, label it. Benson, is it labeled? Chase, what's the H? Right, but which side? The 5x or the blank? Yeah. No, 5, good. Okay, so you should have your H there. Which one's the opposite? No. The blank side. The blank side's opposite. The one that you don't know what it means, that's the last one to label. That's the adjacent side. Okay. So we know H is 5. We want to find A, the adjacent. Which side don't we care about? Opposite. So which ratio has A and H in it? Cosine. SOHCAHTOA. So we're going to use the cosine ratio. So we start by writing cos theta equals A over H. Then we substitute in cos blank equals blank over blank. Fill in the blankety blanks. So we should get cos 30 degrees equals what? What's the fraction? Over 5. There you go. So this one's easy because x is on the top. So instead of dividing by 5, what do? Bring it up and multiply by 5. So cos 30 degrees times 5 equals x. You'll notice I'm using a very big multiplication sign. It's really helpful to make that large so you notice it. Okay. So some people like to figure out cos 30 first. So you go cos 30 is 0.866. Then go times 5. So I already did that, so I'll just take all my decimals and times it by 5. I have 4.33. Round to one decimal. 4.3 equals x. Okay, questions, comments, or concerns? Make sure your work looks exactly like mine, Benson. All the equal signs, everything. And you're working down, not across the page. They should be identical. Okay. One more then. Next page. Okay, on top of the page, let's write down SOHCAHTOA. So we have it there to look at. SOHCAHTOA. Label your HOA, GOA. Always do that first. Label HOA. So cross of 90, that's your H. Opposite the angle is the opposite side. And the side that's left is adjacent. So we don't care about H this time. Don't care about it. Whereas 2 is the opposite side, and we're trying to find the adjacent. So which ratio of SOHCAHTOA has O and A in it? Tangent. So we have to use the tangent ratio. So we start by writing down tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. And then you substitute in. Substitute in. What goes in this space right there? Animal? 15 degrees. Okay. The 2 goes over on the top, and the x goes on the bottom. Okay. Uh-oh, x is on the bottom, in the basement, cold, dark, it's scared. What do we have to do? Flip it. So this becomes 10, 15 degrees over 1. Flip both sides. X over 2. 1 over 10, 15 degrees. Okay. Now, you guys might like the decimals. I don't know. But instead of dividing by 2, we bring it up and multiply by 2. So we times it by 2. So we got 1 times 2 divided by 10, 15 degrees. Now, you guys might like the decimals, so I'll change that to a decimal. 15, 10, 0.2679. Okay, so then go to my calculator. 1 times 2 divided by 0.2679. It's 7.46. Round to 1 decimal, 7.5. Okay. Questions, comments, or concerns? Before in notes, it was all cooked up, right? First we had the sine ratio, then the cos ratio, then the tangent ratio. In the real world, you have to tell me which ratio by looking at which sides you have or are interested in. There's always one side you don't care about. Okay. So for your homework, you're either going to solve like this, where you have the unknown on top, or, and you can look back at your other examples, you don't need to write this down, or it's going to be like this, where the unknown is on the bottom, and you have to flip your fraction. Okay, that's what your work is going to look like, one of those two. Please, right now, assignment number 6, write down SOHCAHTOA. You want to have it at the top of every page so you can look at it right away. Turn to assignment 6, write down SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so you have 6 questions to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you have until 1:05 So you have almost an hour to do it. Should get it done, and you even have free time to work on anything else you owe. Okay, pitter patter, get at it, get to work.